Okay, so Jordan, are you back? You said you were driving. I can talk about Trent, the Council of Trent. I've actually followed his YouTube a little bit. Are you back or
Yeah, I'm free now. I just wanted to wait
okay?
till there was kind of a free moment.
Yeah.
Um, so where does it? I guess it all kind of starts with the Trent Horn thing with Wifejack, actually. And I hate
Oh,
to bring it all the
really?
way back to that, but that's kind of what I'm finding the link right now. I can send it to the chat. But it goes back to the Wifejack thing. So Trent Horn, I found it. He released a video at the peak of the whole Wifejack debate called "The Anti-Simp Stuff is Getting Out of Control." And he seemed odd, like people noticed from the beginning that he seemed oddly like defensive and oddly like at the forefront of defending women from the anti-wife jack stuff.
Yeah.
So this video, I put it in the chat. It came out, it was a while ago, but you can take a look at it.
Well, let's just do a little bit of a setup. So I discovered Trent Green maybe 6 months ago when he I saw a video of him on Twitter actually where he mentioned a very interesting thing. Ironically, perhaps he had the same interpretation of a moment from, is it from Exodus? It's involving Moses in the Torah, and Moses takes a Hamite wife. Ham is the ancestor of Cush, ancestor of sub-Saharan Africans, basically. And Aaron and others are mad about this, and there seems to be an implied sort of racial critique that, Moses, what are you doing? Uh, and Yahweh gives Aaron's wife's it gives Aaron's wife leprosy, and it becomes a sort of problematic whiteness. And it's very interesting because Trent, I saw a video where Trent was endorsing that reading, which is interesting in itself. And then he basically is saying, like, uh, God made the genders, but he didn't make the races. And, you know, you're wrong, pagan heretic. Or he said something where he was like clapping, like, shut up, pagan heretics. And so he was endorsing a sort of multiracial, though traditionalist type of order. Now, Jordan, I don't know how much you know about Trent, but does he have Italian ancestry, or might he be?
No, he has Jewish ancestry. That's the thing.
He has Jewish ancestry.
So he's a I
See,
don't know how
just
deep
seeing his face,
racially.
I might guess that his one grandparent was African American. I might guess that, but
No,
you
so
never can fully tell. But
I don't. He's not a con. He's a convert to Catholicism, but he's ethnically Jewish. That's kind of the backstory there
fascinating.
with him.
Okay, interesting. I started subscribing to him afterwards, and I'll sometimes listen to his videos, and he's good at what he does. It's professionally done, and he'll talk about various subjects from a Catholic perspective. He does, to be fair here, he does seem rather gracious towards his adversaries, that attack on paganism notwithstanding. Maybe you could say that he's gracious towards his atheist and Christian adversaries, but not towards his pagan adversaries. Uh,
True.
yeah, there is this interesting thing. Sorry, I'm doing a bit of a sides here. I've noticed this interesting thing where you had the new atheist of 15 years ago who were boomers or Gen X, like mostly boomers actually, but Christopher Hitchens, Richard Dawkins, Sam Harris, and many others, the village atheist or the amazing atheist or whatever, more of a Gen X vibe. They were harsh, take no prisoners. We hate George W. Bush. You're wrong. You're worshiping a stupid fairy tale. You're worshiping the spaghetti monster. It was very like polemical. You have this new generation of internet atheists, because Richard Dawkins has moved on in effect, and Christopher Hitchens is sadly dead. Sam Harris, whatever. And you have this new generation of internet atheists who are this like soft, gooey atheist, where they constantly want to talk to William Lane Craig and praise his work and have some cosmological discussion about the unmoved mover, or like Platonic God, as I would refer to him, because it's not the God of the Bible exactly. I mean, it is the God of Genesis 1 to some degree, but it's not really the God of the Bible or the Tanakh, like Yahweh. It's a kind of abstract God of Plato, that where in some ways morality has been removed from it. Certainly the narrative of the Bible has been removed, and it's just this sort of like almost like logic game of, if there's something, why is there something and not nothing? There must have been something or someone that created the something. And I understand how that type of argument is compelling, but there are actually many built-in assumptions to thinking like that. And in many ways, it's kind of anti-Christian or un-Christian or un-Jewish even. You know, like it's so abstract. And it's the Kalam cosmological argument is coming from Islam, actually, interestingly. But it's so abstract that you take away all power of religion. I mean, Christianity is about Jesus and about the stories of Jesus and his miracles, but also the radical worldview that he is expressing and maybe even inventing to a large degree, bringing into the world. And it's about your need to put faith in that man so that you can be saved and forgiven and thus not face God's wrath. Like that's what Christianity is about. Once you're talking with these like cosmological atheists and cosmological logical kind of logic games, theories about you've already lost. None of this is Christian. None of this implies Jesus or Christianity. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah. Are you saying atheists or apologists?
Both.
Okay, because Trent Horn, yeah, I agree with you that Trent Horn approaches it more from rather than kind of getting into the parables of Jesus, like you said, he's kind of getting at like unmoved mover type stuff that's not
Yeah,
all that
once you're
convincing.
talking to some like Oxford nerd and William Lane Craig about unmoved movers, you've lost, because there's no need for Jesus once that's your starting point. Like, let's have some, and I would say that I think all of these arguments are sort of pseudo philosophical, but I would say that from my own perspective. Like, I understand why they're doing that. I think Nietzsche sort of summed it up of, it's the grammar of language, which has an implied logic. So there's a subject, a verb, and a direct object. I hit the baseball. I am a subject, hit, verb, baseball, direct object. Because that's ingrained in the logic of language, we assume that that is ingrained in the logic of the universe. So there is God, create, earth. I hit baseball. But why are you assuming that? Why are you assuming that there's a beginning or end to the universe? Why must there be? Do you only think that there's a deity because you use grammar? I mean, this is a Nietzschean take on it, and you can see a lot of that in like deconstructionism, etc. Now, that's from my perspective. I think that is basically solving the riddle. Like, you cannot know these things, and you're thinking in this manner because of language itself, the implicit logic within language itself. Now, again, that's my perspective, but I would say from a Christian perspective, it's not that you can't talk about these things, but once you're engaged in these, like, let's be honest, just like sort of unanswerable logical queries
Hmm.
into the universe, you've already lost because you're getting away from the power of religion, which is Jesus, you
Hmm.
know?
Yeah,
I don't know. It's just my opinion on the
I
matter.
think a lot of it has to do um, kind of with people rediscovering a lot of St. Thomas Aquinas's works, at least online.
Mm-hmm.
I think everybody wants, not everybody, but a lot of these Catholic apologists want to be like a modern Aquinas. And
Yeah.
that's what Aquinas was engaged a lot in, was kind of those
Yes.
unanswerables. So you have people like Trent Horn who would rather talk about like the abstract unmoved mover than like getting into the historicity of Jesus or something. So yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah. I guess I am a little bit of a Kantian in the sense that I don't think you could ever prove that. I mean, one thing that Kant was doing in criticizing reason itself or limiting reason is understanding its limitations. You really can't go beyond um the way in which your mind is functioned. You can't know a thing in itself. You can't fully know what is out there, and it's actually an almost like tragic way of looking at the world. You only know the world, to use Schopenhauer's language. You only know the world as representation. You know the world as it appears in your mind, and you can't actually know what the world is. It's a I would say that I largely agree with that.
It's a humbling
Um,
idea.
it is very humbling, yeah. But I mean, one thing that Kant says, you can't really know God. I mean, yeah. Ooh.
Yeah,
But he
that's
was a he was a devout or I don't know how devout, but yeah, he was a Protestant who believed in God. But it is what it is. But
I feel disappointed that the Trent Horn video, what I'm bringing up is not going nearly as deep as what you were just talking about. Um,
well, but that's
but
that
hey,
that's you
that's
you
why
could
I'm on
say
this
that
call.
about almost everyone. Yeah, you're dealing with me, so it's
Fair.
it's a high bar.
Yeah.
Chris, do you want to add something to this?
Well, yeah, just along those lines, to bring up something you've mentioned before, like we these ideas go to Kant, to Schopenhauer, as you're mentioning, but in a way, even as you've said before, in a way, these ideas kind of go back to the ancient Greeks. When you look at the paradoxes of Zeno, and those are also getting to this ultimate disjunction between word and world.
Yes.
Could you say that Achilles is or that Achilles is like traversing half the distance to the end of the race when he's running? Yes, that's true. Oh, so he's never going to finish it.
Right,
It's like
because he
if you
keeps having the distance. So
yeah, he keep
he's running a football field. He runs 50 yards, then he runs another 25 yards. Then he runs 12 and a half yards, and then he runs 6.25. It just keeps going in an infinite regress, and he never reaches the end zone. That's
so yeah,
Zeno's paradox.
right. So we
So
have to. It
yeah,
shows it shows that these concepts again. It's correct to say that he's doing that, but we have to get out of these constructions of language that we use. Always have to be kind of double checked or backstopped against the world that we see with our lying eyes.
exactly. All right, let's listen to a little bit. So I would say this though, Jordan. I don't hate Trent and his counsel. I kind of like his guy. He's smart. Like, I'll listen to him if I'm driving or something.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, his Catholic theology, and obviously I'm a little biased because I'm Catholic, but
Right.
um, I think his theology is pretty unassailable, to be honest with you. I think he gets a lot right, but the problem that a lot of these internet Catholics get into is they also want to comment on like gender dynamics and also want to get into stuff like, hey man, you really need to put your coat over the mud when a woman walks by. You hold the door for her. It's like it's
Right.
completely outdated stuff, and it leaves a lot of young people. I wouldn't put myself in this category, but it leaves a lot of these young people like well, there's something insufficient about what Trent is saying about gender. So let me go check out what Andrew Tate has to say. And it
Yeah,
does
that's
put a
true.
lot of people in that boat. So this kind of ties into that.
All right, let's listen to a little bit about this.
Entirely, sometimes joining movements like MGTOW, men who go their own way, even though those ways usually end up with becoming the same thing, a cynical, terminally online person. Of course, the best pill to take is the white pill, or the Christ pill. This approach to life rejects the blue
white
pill idea
it's
that women...
if you end it there. The best place to take is the white pill. You're like, I'm just imagining like a super cut of this, and it like shows like images from the Anschluss of Austria or something. He's like, the best pill to take is the white pill, and then it's like Hitler and all these soldiers. Anyway, no, he doesn't mean that kind of white pill. He means the Christ pill.
Are prizes to be won, or something you earn by being really nice. It also rejects the red and black pill idea that men and women have a mutually exploitative relationship where each side tries to outsmart the other. The Christ pill would be coming to realize that God created men and women to be complementary helpmates who serve one another and help each other get to heaven despite their particular sins and human frailties. The main reason simping is bad is because it's just a really cringy version of other more aggressive forms of men manipulating women. Saturday Night Live even has a good sketch that shows how many so-called male feminists try to act like nice guys in order to impress liberal women, but when their romantic advances are rejected, they reveal themselves to be misogynistic jerks who are the opposite of what a feminist is supposed to be. But the other extreme are men who are so jaded about relationships that they label any form of kindness towards women as simping. For example, I've seen men on X post simple affirmations like, "I love my wife," to which other men accuse them of simping for their wives. For these men, don't be a simp has turned into don't like anything about women except for when they carry out their duty to birth and raise babies. This came up a few months ago when a meme called Wifejack became popular on the internet, depicting a redheaded wife doing things that husbands find quirky or mildly annoying. Things like asking for an email verification code, or saying they can leave after saying bye to everyone at a party. My favorite is a medieval Wifejack peasant who asks her husband, "Okay, but if you had to guess, when do you think you'll be home from battle?" It isn't hilarious humor, but it's worthy of a chuckle, like a Dilbert cartoon satirizing life at the office. But what makes Wifejack wholesome is that it rejects humor popular in the boomer generation that was basically, "I can't stand my wife," as embodied by comedians like Henry Youngman, who popularized the one-liner, "Take my wife, please."
My wife hates housework. I bought electric iron, electric dishwasher, electric dryer. She said too many gadgets around, she had no place to sit down. What did I do? Bought her electric chair.
In contrast, Wifejack in similar humor has the message, "I love my wife, quirks and all." Even if you don't find it funny, it's nothing to get worked up about. I don't get the humor in the New Yorker, but I don't go on a huge rant about it. But here's Nick Fuentes melting down over the Wifejack meme.
If I ever see Wifejack, I am going to kill her. If I ever see Wifejack in the streets, I'm going to ram my car into her car. I'm going to hit her on the driver's side head on. And if she doesn't die, I'm going to break through the windshield and kill her myself. I'm going to wrap the seatbelt around her neck, and I'm going to kill her.
And when Yee brought his wife in a nude dress to the 2025 Grammys, Fuentes said this.
You know, it's not Catholic to bring your wife around naked. But I will say this, it's definitely better than Wifejack.
Fuentes also wonders why many men who wanted to be radical on the internet in 2016 now just want an offline normal life nearly a decade later. Well, the answer is that many of these young men grew up, got married, and acquired real responsibilities, and so they stopped being immature children who spend all their time on the internet. In his essay, Wifejack, Icon of the Normal, Catholic author Soeb Amari breaks down the roots of anger like Fuentes's, which goes well beyond Wifejack and covers all the irrational rage certain terminally online men muster against other men who are in wholesome relationships with women. These men see nothing wrong with saying, "I love a certain video game," or "I love my race." But if you say, "I love my wife," you are an insufferable simp to them. Amari writes, not unlike the anti-normative left, The barbarians of the far right can't seem to view sexuality through any other lens but that of domination and submission, power and counterpower. The barbarians associate femininity with democratic egalitarianism, collective social organization, solicitude for the weak, and the suffocation of the white man's adventurous spirit. The popularity of Wifejack is a reminder that normal is irrepressible, that the average or ordinary is worth defending. Who would choose the spittle-flecked rantings of a Fuentes over Wifejack's asking you to help her choose whether she should use the green or the red font for this year's family Christmas card? Amari also links to Fuentes ranting about how liking women is gay, which I thought was the opposite of being gay. These kinds of rants even got Fuentes highlighted on Jimmy Kimmel Live.
But I think this more than anything sums this gentleman up.
What, people calling me gay because I've never had a girlfriend? I think if anything, it makes me less gay. Never having a girlfriend, never having sex with a woman, really makes you more heterosexual. Because honestly, dating women is gay. Having sex with women is gay. And having sex with men is gay. And you know, it's all gay.
That was the Christmas episode, by the way.
Along with saying that any man who is kind to a woman is a simp, these guys say that any man who says women should have the same basic rights as men is an evil feminist. Of course, the term basic rights can be abused, and feminists are wrong when they say that this equality means women should be able to do everything men do. Feminism is evil because it tries to turn women into men by saying women should be in the workplace and not at home, or women should be able to have sex and not get pregnant, both of which are things men do. So when feminists try to turn women into men by saying there's a basic right to fight in combat in the military, they're wrong. Some discrimination between men and women is acceptable because there are morally relevant differences between men and women. But some of the discrimination between men and women can be unjust. And so it's fair for a social movement to be needed to fight for women's rights in certain historical and geographical contexts. For example, in some parts of the world, men throw battery acid on the faces of women who try to go to school or even go out in public without a male escort. And women who are raped are executed through so-called honor.
Yeah, no one supports that, but I'll Jordan, as more of a, you know, someone in touch with the younger generation, I am interested in your opinion on this. I mean, one thing when I hear this kind of thing, it's like in bringing women into the workplace, you've already crossed the Rubicon to a degree, because you've already set up a situation in which a woman don't need no man. She can go have a job and get health insurance and get a condominium or at least an apartment or even a house on this job. She doesn't, you know, if it's just simply about fulfilling basic needs, she does not need a husband. And that is going to have consequences. Not that woman can't have children or raise them in this situation, but it's clearly going to have significant major consequences in terms of fertility and family life, etc., especially if she's doing this throughout her 20s and 30s. And so it's like we now want to protect them from combat or something. It's like, you know, this woman is sharp as a tack and she should be CEO, but oh no, like, how dare we send this fair maiden into battle? This is men's work, which basically just means men are going to die.
Yeah, I mean,
and women not. But it's like, if you're going to go, you've crossed the Rubicon already. So women, like, if you're going to just cross the Rubicon, then women need to be in combat. And I understand how we're all sort of unprincipled on some level. And like, for instance, I don't spend my time attacking women who have an office job or something, but I would just flatly say, I don't think women should be in combat. Some of the justifications for that are practical. But actually, the fundamental justification is moral, or you could even say romantic.
Yeah,
But
I
so
mean,
I mean, I'm hypocritical as well. But I guess it's just like when you're trying to justify this with Catholicism, as Trent is, it's like, look, man, you've already crossed the Rubicon. You've sort of already lost the fundamental battle, and you're like fighting these easy ones. Like no one wants to throw acid in the face of women if they go outside or something. That's just total. That's like a picking up. It's not even low hanging fruit. It's a coconut lying on the ground that you just pick up. I mean, give me a break.
yeah,
Go on though.
yeah. Obviously, that's a little ridiculous, and I mean, the issue is that with these guys like Trent Horn, they're all fundamentally feminists. I mean, they may say that they have an issue with, what do they say? Oh, I don't want first and second, or I don't want third wave feminism. First wave feminism was the right one. And I mean, at the end of the day, when you hear Trent Horn saying something like that, he is basically saying he's a feminist. I mean, a lot of these people love to talk. I was bringing up Aquinas earlier. They want to bring Aquinas out when he's talking about scripture or morality, but they don't want to pay attention to the parts where Aquinas is saying that at a societal level, women are men secondary, basically. Like, yeah, they're equal in terms of, their souls going to heaven. But I mean, even Trent Horn a couple weeks ago was trying to rebuff Aquinas a little bit in his Summa Theologia writing, saying that, a man may need to strike his wife if she's disobedient or something. So
Sure.
It's almost something like you could almost see like they'll justify race being real in the Bible or something. But then when they, when St. Paul says that wives be subordinate to your husbands, well, he didn't quite mean it that way. There's a weird interpretation, and he didn't mean subordinate. He meant they're jumping through all these hoops basically to keep the women happy, and that's kind of what the core of Wifejack is. It's like nobody's saying don't love your wife, but we all know the kind of guy that Wifejack represents, and it is Trent Horn in a way, and that ties in. And I'll put this in the chat really quick.
Well, is what I'm sharing right now? I think this is coming from your account.
Yeah, you got it. Yeah, you got it.
All right, let's just listen to a minute 40 of this.
Okay, so I got super close to a male coworker.
Yeah.
Okay, so I got super close to a male coworker. And I shared this testimony, and we used to do like a marriage encounter weekend, and I shared this testimony, and I got too close to him. And you start, I wouldn't say developing feelings, and Trent knows all this stuff, but I think that's how affairs happen. They happen very slowly. It's not like you just have an affair with someone. You get to know them. You're attracted to their temperament. They see the best side of you. And like Trent was very uncomfortable with it, and I was like, well, we're just friends, but he's not a jealous person at all. So he was like, I'm just asking that you don't do anything that you wouldn't be uncomfortable with me doing with a woman. Like, you have that same standard. Like, if I was, like, talking to a coworker often and joking around with that person, and they were, like, getting to know you, would you be...
Okay, I just want to jump in a little bit. Like, don't you think most affairs happen because women are attractive and we've got healthy libidos and we're red-blooded and we're kind of animals on some level and sex is great, and like it's like she's already at this denatured, neutered point of like, oh yeah, like I really started to like his personality and I saw the best of who he was. Like it's like, yeah, I think affairs happen because we have a libido, we have a desire, we have a desire to take like get in touch with who you are, even if you are a Christian, like and or you don't necessarily even need to be a Christian to be moral. Even if you are going to reject it, just be honest enough to say that you have a libido and you want a man to rip your clothes off, throw you on his office desk, and take you in some moment of absolute abandonment and bliss. That's what you actually want. Like, you're a human being. This notion of like liking his personality and seeing his best side, I don't even know what that means exactly, but you've already like lost me here. If you know what I mean.
And the unspoken part is that all these things that she's kind of painting over, that animalistic instinct, are things that she does not feel with Trent because he's a simp. Any guy who's saying, "Hey guys, I'm all for knocking women down a peg, but this anti-Wifejack stuff is too far." He's soft, and she knows that he doesn't have it in him to actually like say, "You're not fucking talking to him again." You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, he doesn't have that in him. She knows that. She feels comfortable going on a podcast airing out their dirty laundry because he doesn't have that in him to be that guy. And she knows that, and he knows she knows that.
Yeah. Like, you do have to be, I mean, you do have to be a little bit dangerous and a little bit evil. It's like, the knight in shining armor mythos that we were talking about, I guess 2 hours ago when we were talking about Snow White. Like, it's really idealized in that image of Snow White being asleep and the man having true love and kissing her, and she awakens. That is a idealized image to something that has happened throughout human history, which is that a conquering warrior enters the territory of a foreign tribe and takes the woman, and she resists at first. She might hate. I think that's what maybe the being asleep metaphor is resisting or hating him, etc. And he wins, and then she ultimately loves him after he raped her. And I'm sorry to be so brutal, and as you guys know, I'm not one of these like red pill guys, but I'm really honest about these things. Like, that's what it's about.
Well, she worked it in there really subtly. She said, and Trent's not a jealous guy. That just reads to me as he's not a dangerous guy. And I know what I'm getting from him, and he would never be untowards toward me, and he respects my boundary. Like, so you think he's a pussy, basically. The fact that you're on this podcast telling this story tells us everything we need to know, honestly.
Yeah, because she is very subtly humiliating him. The other thing, I would actually say this. First off, I do think talking about this is very uncouth, but I would have more respect for both of them if she had an affair, a just out of control, lusty affair where she just had wild sex with this man that she was attracted to, and then admitted her failing, apologized, and Trent forgave her. That actually strikes me as sort of more human, because everyone makes mistakes. Everyone has an animal nature. And you recognize that not everyone gives in to that animal nature, but like, even the forgiveness is actually more Christian than this kind of denatured, like, I was getting too emotionally close with a coworker. That is just so like dumb and lame. Then I wanted him to fuck me.
There's also, in a weird way, there would also.
It's like more human.
Yeah, in a weird way, it would almost be more masculine. The forgiveness would be more masculine, actually. This is almost like a passive-aggressive affair. Like, well, Trent wasn't paying attention to me, and I found a guy who did pay attention to me. Like, if an actual affair had happened and he said, "I forgive you," I mean, yeah, there is. I mean, I don't pray to God nobody ever finds themselves in that situation, but
right, I get it.
There would be something like masculine about saying, you know what, we're married under the eyes of God. This is a marriage for eternity. I forgive you.
Because one aspect of Christianity is that you have to say, I'm flawed too. I mean, I genuinely think that the the red pill or incel community, when they think the problem is 100% women are evil or something, that is wrong, and that's low IQ. If you start talking about one sex being evil and being like 100% responsible for the dilemma we're in, you're already in the realm of low IQ stuff. Like, we're both guilty, we're both failing, and the world has put us in a terrible situation. Like that once you kind of recognize the problem, then you can start dealing with it.
Mm-hmm.
So like the man has to say, like, well, I had an affair too one time. Like, or at the very least, as Jesus says, if you lust in your heart, you might as well have committed adultery. So, there was a time when I saw a woman, I just wanted to, grab her by the hair and drag her into my office and just have my way with her. If you think that thought, you might as well have done it. So it's like, it's honest, forgiving, saying, I also have these failings, or at least these desires. So I understand them and I can overcome this problem. That's more real than her. She is bragging about the affair. She did have the affair, in effect.
Right. And it's also advertising that she's desirable also. I think that a lot of these women, it's hard to say exactly who, but like she's just the perfect encapsulation of it. A lot of these women who are married to these upstanding guys like Trent Horn and, they're Catholic apologists and stuff, I think they resent the fact that they're not in the limelight, not in the spotlight. And this is kind of a way for her to be like, oh, I'm still desirable. Like, look at me. It's kind of her flexing her sexual market value while being married and getting to kind of put this coat of like sorrow over it. And, oh, I'm a really good person because I'm airing this out. No, you're really just kind of flexing that like guys still want you, basically, while shitting on your husband, who's from all appearances a good Catholic.
Yeah, completely.
But I mean, that's kind of the big thing is, a lot of these guys like Trent, they purport to be, the representation of masculinity because they're Catholic and they're doing it the right way. And I got a wife at home. Okay, dude, your wife's at home, but she's also like emotionally having an affair. She's like emotionally cheating on you. So that's why I really don't listen too much to guys like Trent who try to lecture on masculinity, because when you dig a little deeper, like when you dig deeper, you realize Nick Fuentes is more correct about gender dynamics than Trent is, sadly.
I think he is more correct about.
He's more correct.
He's more correct about human nature and the resulting gender dynamics than Trent is. I do agree. I mean, I can only roll my eyes when I hear like sex is gay. But I understand where he's coming from, at least. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, if this is who young guys are told to look up to as the pinnacle of masculinity, I don't agree with what Andrew Tate says on a moral level, but I almost can't blame younger guys for drifting towards that when this is their alternative.
There's also, I don't know, I would be a little suspicious of this couple or this woman, because I briefly, when I saw this post, I actually think I saw it from your account, and I looked into her briefly. I mean, just for like, 3 minutes or something, but she herself like wants to be an online right-wing Catholic influencer, and she's doing all these like sketches and things on TikTok, and I would just be I don't know, it's well, I'm just speaking from my perspective. Like, I like having intellectual discussions and so on. This whole like slop content, like right-wing Christian slop content, and the people who are attracted to that, I'm a little bit.
Yeah, and I mean, that those skits, I saw those also. Those were not Trent's idea. That she was like, hey, I have a really good idea for my TikTok. Will you do this with me? And he begrudgingly is like, okay, honey, like that sounds like a hellish marriage to me. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Because say what you will about Matt Walsh and you know his lack of a spine. I mean, we never hear from his wife. You know, I mean, she does have a little Twitter account where she engages with Matt on Twitter, but like you don't really hear from her. She is raising the kids. Like, in that kind of situation, you probably don't want to hear from the wife too much. You know,
I'm just sort of a de facto or implicit male chauvinist. We obviously have women in the group and so on, and I'm more than happy to hear from them. But you know, I'm a male chauvinist in the sense that like I want to get at the truth. Like I want to have interesting debates and dialogue and discussion. I'm not this. There's something deeply feminine about the sort of like relatable TikTok content or something. Like there was some weird thing where she was wearing like a t-shirt that said like trad cath, and there was I don't even know what she was going for, but it's just this sort of like silly sketch comedy as political.
Yeah,
please stop.
It's just brutal.
Yeah.